First with Coach Mangini. It's been quite a 24 hours for Josh Gordon. Went from arguably the worst franchise in the league in the Browns to arguably the best in the Patriots. New England traded for him yesterday in exchange for a fifth-round pick. Josh Gordon has played just 6 games since the 2014 season, missing a ton of time with substance abuse issues. According to reports, he is available to play Sunday against the Lions despite a hamstring injury. All right, Coach, how much better does Gordon make the New England Patriots? What was your reaction when you heard the trade, and how much better does he make this team? Well,
my initial reaction was that this is just a lottery ticket. That's all it is. So they give away a fifth if he plays 10 games. If he doesn't, they get back a 7th. So they really swap picks if he doesn't end up playing in 10 games. And there's no telling what he can be there, because a big part of being in New England is being a trustworthy player, and is being a player that can line up, can run the right routes, can be there every day on a consistent basis, and that hasn't been Josh's track record. Now, that being said, they need a lot of help, so I would imagine that they will try to give him a very small package of plays that he can do really well. So he'll be, I see him as being a specialty player. So maybe he comes in and runs a fade. Maybe he's got a post. Maybe he's got a concise package that Tom knows. He knows he'll run well, he'll execute well. And that, to me, is the best way for them to use him in the short term until they understand who he is, where he is, what he can do.
Go ahead, Jen.
I was going to say, what's the conversation Belichick has with Gordon when he comes in? Or is he treated like another wide receiver that comes in? Is it, these are our rules, stick to it, or doesn't even go there?
Well, look, here's the hard part. This isn't, when he left Cleveland, he left his best chance to be successful. They were helping him. They were patient with him. They did all those things. He's going to an environment where you need to perform, and there's not going to be anybody leading you through that process. There's not going to be anybody sitting next to you through that process in terms of being like a Sherpa. You're on your own, and you better be able to excel in that environment, and it's not easy.
And there will not be second chances. Like, I mean, it was a final straw, him being late on Saturday, potentially misleading the team, and according to Mary Kay Cabot, was not himself. That was the final straw of many. In New England, the first straw would be the last straw, right? If he is late for a meeting or a practice early in his time there, he'll get the same treatment any of these. Hey, see, how many wide receivers they've been through since March? 28 wide receivers since March. And keep in mind, that's with Edelman's been on the roster the whole time. Matthew Slater's a wide receiver special teamer. He's been on the roster, as has Philip Dorsett and Chris Hogan. So that means basically to churn the bottom 2 guys. Cordarrelle Patterson has stuck recently, but how many names have we said? Kenny Britt, Malcolm Mitchell, Corey Coleman, Chad Hansen, the dude from the Jets. Amara Darboh was there for a cup of coffee. Like, they are churning the bottom of the roster repeatedly. I think that America is far overreacting to this. Twitter responded yesterday. Smart people on Twitter, by the way. I'm not just talking about random folks. People I respect their opinion of.
Like me.
Of course, that this is Randy Moss 2.0. No, it's not. It is. Randy was an established star player who had 2 down years in Oakland, and they had similar draft compensation in the trade for him. But you knew, A, that Randy wasn't going to be a guy who was suspended and kicked out of the league, and B, you knew that if Randy re-engaged, he was immediately going to be a dominant player again. You don't know even if Josh stays on the straight and narrow, you don't know what his best is anymore. The guy, he has what? He's got 19 catches in the last 4 years. Like, that's where he is. Now, I still think talent-wise, he's as good as anyone they have on the roster. But I don't think they're doing this expecting huge things from Josh Gordon.
But you brought up Cordarrelle Patterson. I think that's a really good example of what I was trying to say earlier. Cordarrelle, they're using in a very specific way. And in using him in that way, he's being productive in their system. So I would imagine in the short term, they're going to try to utilize Josh in the same sense, have a package for him to allow him to be successful. And I know they've turned over 28 guys, but nobody's as talented as this guy. And this is serious. It's like you go to the corner store, you buy a lottery ticket. If it hits big. If it doesn't hit, they switch a 7th rounder for a 5th rounder.
Yeah, it's just a transaction for them. They're not emotional about it like the people on Twitter are like sports fans. No, Belichick, no, he's not going to sit him down and tell him a whole bunch of things and everything. No, and what difference would it make? It didn't work for Josh when he was in middle school. It didn't work for him when he was in high school. It didn't work for him at a couple colleges. And it didn't work through a couple ownership, a few general managers, a couple coaches in Cleveland. What do you think these people have been telling them? Like, there's no magic in New England. There's no magic. You know what happens? I talked to Randy Moss when he left Oakland and was going to New England. Now, the conversation didn't end the way people might expect it, because Randy was not happy with the things that I told him. Because I told him the way he represented himself as a football player, that if he showed up one day like that in New England, they would get rid of him. And if he didn't change his attitude and have a different perspective once he got there, his career would be over with. If Bill Belichick can't resurrect your career, it's over with. So I knew, and Randy was determined to be able to change the way people saw the last 2 years. So I knew Randy's state of mind when he was going to New England. And I can guarantee you it's not the same state of mind that Josh has when he decided that I'm going to be late and I'm going to tell the organization a different story than what happened to him at his promo shoot. And so when people compare it to Randy Moss, no, it's not Randy Moss, all right? Randy Moss is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And for someone to compare Josh to him and where he is, it's really very, very naive for them to be doing that. This is closer to Albert Haynesworth. People don't want to remember him when New England signed him. That's what it's closer to being, all right, compared to Randy Moss and him going on to break NFL records, and to compare Josh as a student of the game to comparing him to Randy Moss. You don't know what you're talking about as far as football. Randy Moss was brilliant as far as the offenses that he could remember, his ability to be able to retract information from even years ago, his Rolodex of information he had on NFL DBs, the positions that he could play inside the offense. Like, it's not even comparable, Coach.
And Randy Moss had an offseason. Randy Moss had time. Randy Moss had work with Tom Brady. It's not like he showed up on Monday. So let's say Josh got there last night, had his physical. He's going to work with the coaches this afternoon after have the game plan in place and then be expected to play. That's a totally different scenario than what we were dealing with Randy, where he had work with Tom Brady. And at the end of the day, this is one of those opportunities where Josh is going to make a decision whether he wants to do it or whether he doesn't want to do it. It's going to have to be his decision, because no one's going to be nurturing him through that. Now, what I do think New England will do well is find out what he can do, put him in the game in those positions. And the last thing is, it's really hard to improve your team once the season starts, because the players that become available, they're typically not great upgrades. This is a unique opportunity, if it hits even to some degree, for them to substantially improve a position of desperate need, at least in the short term, and that's why I think they took the chance.
All right, the Patriots are in Detroit on Sunday. They will have Josh Gordon on their team. Thanks, Coach. Coming up. Maybe. You're right. Maybe. Coming up, why is Antonio